My best friend realized she had stolen the wrong thesis at 8:17 a.m., 13 minutes before our research seminar began, while standing outside room 402 with a lavender binder pressed to her chest and my old title printed in bold across her cover page. I knew the exact second she saw the problem because her smile did not disappear all at once. It stuttered. First, her dimples vanished. Then her eyes stopped shining. Then the hand holding her iced coffee tightened until the plastic lid popped and caramel foam slid down her fingers. Behind her, the department screen rotated through the final approved thesis topics for the honors cohort, and beside my student number, in clean black text, was a title she had never seen before. Hearing the Invisible Ward, How Night Shift Nurses Detect Patient Deterioration Before Monitors Do. Not the topic she copied. Not the draft she stole from my laptop in the first life. Not the beautifully structured proposal on algorithmic bias in emergency triage that she submitted under her name 3 days before I did, then used to convince the panel I had copied her because she was brave enough to file first. In that life, I watched her cry into the shoulder of my supervisor while telling everyone she loved me too much to accuse me directly. In this life, I changed my topic 6 weeks earlier, registered it properly, salted the old draft with quiet proof, and waited for her to arrive at class carrying a stolen map to a country I had already left. "Nora," she whispered, turning toward me with panic breaking through her lip gloss. "What did you do?" I looked at the binder in her arms, at my old chapter headings under her clear plastic cover, and said softly, "I wrote my own thesis." 6 weeks earlier, I woke up with my face pressed against a library desk and a scream trapped behind my teeth. The fluorescent lights above me buzzed like insects. My laptop was open to a document titled Honors Thesis Proposal, Final Proper Final, which was exactly the kind of stupid file name I used before life taught me that carelessness could be weaponized. My phone said Monday, August 4th. I should have been 23, disgraced, withdrawn from honors, and working night shifts at a petrol station because no graduate program would touch the girl who plagiarized her best friend's thesis. Instead, I was 21 again, alive in the postgraduate library at St. Bartholomew University, with my original proposal still unfinished and my supposed best friend, Elodie Hart, texting me from 3 tables away. "Send me your intro when you're done?" Not to copy, obviously. I just need to understand structure, because my brain is soup. In my first life, I sent it. Of course I sent it. Elodie had been my person since first year, the girl who shared umbrellas, fixed my eyeliner before presentations, brought soup when I had the flu, and called me a genius in a tone that made me feel loved instead of harvested. She said she struggled with starting, so I gave her starts. She said she needed examples, so I gave her mine. She said our minds worked beautifully together, and I mistook that for intimacy. By the time she submitted my thesis topic as hers, she had already trained everyone to see my work coming from her mouth. I stared at her message in the second life until the words blurred. Then I closed my laptop, stood up, and walked out of the library without sending a single sentence. The old thesis topic had been strong. That was why she stole it. Algorithmic bias in emergency triage. How risk prediction tools reproduce socioeconomic inequality in urban hospitals. It was sharp, current, respectable, and full of phrases supervisors loved because they sounded both technical and moral. I had spent months building it from articles, placement observations, and anger I did not know where else to put. In the first life, Elodie had no real topic 3 weeks before proposal presentations. She had a mood board, 5 color-coded tabs, and an ability to say health equity with tears in her eyes. I let her read my literature review because she said seeing one complete example would calm her panic. 2 days later, her topic registry updated with my title, slightly reworded, and when I confronted her, she looked genuinely hurt. "Nora, we brainstormed this together," she said, loud enough for the research lounge to hear. "You don't get to own an entire field." Then she submitted first. She attached a draft that used my structure, my argument, my source order, even my awkward sentence about digital objectivity wearing a human blindfold. When I tried to prove theft, she produced screenshots of me sharing files, voice notes where I said, "Use whatever helps," and a collaborative whiteboard, she had quietly edited to make my private ideas look mutual. The inquiry decided there was insufficient evidence of deliberate theft, but enough overlap to question my originality. My scholarship was paused. My supervisor withdrew. Elodie got the Ethics Award for courage under conflict. I learned too late that betrayal is most effective when it arrives wearing your own generosity. The first thing I did after leaving the library was go to the nursing faculty building, where the elevators always smelled faintly of disinfectant and burnt toast from the student lounge. My original supervisor, Dr. Anika Rao, had office hours from 10 to 12. In the first timeline, I avoided her until my proposal was polished because I wanted to seem brilliant. That delay gave Elodie room to become official before me. In this life, I knocked with a messy notebook, swollen eyes, and no performance at all. Dr. Rao looked up from a stack of ethics forms and said, "Nora, you look like you've seen a ghost." Something like that, I said, because the truth was ridiculous and still sitting in my chest with wet hair and cold hands. I told her I wanted to change my thesis topic. Not because the old topic was weak, but because it had become contaminated by informal sharing, and I wanted a project grounded in access only I could genuinely defend. Dr. Rao leaned back. That is unusually self-aware for week 2. I almost laughed. Dying under a reputation you did not earn has a way of accelerating self-awareness. She asked what I wanted instead. I spoke about something I had noticed during placement but never considered thesis-worthy because it was quiet, embodied, and difficult to measure. Experienced night shift nurses noticing deterioration before monitors alarmed, reading changes in breathing, skin tone, agitation, silence. Dr. Rao's expression changed. "That," she said slowly, "is yours." The word landed like a hand on my shoulder. Yours. Not ours. Not shared. Not available. I registered the new topic before leaving her office and sent the confirmation to my university email, my personal email, and a folder my sister could access if I vanished from Courage again. Elodie found me outside the faculty cafe 20 minutes later, because girls like her always sense when a resource has moved. She wore a cream cardigan, gold hoops, and the worried expression she used whenever she wanted someone else's boundary to look like a medical emergency. "You disappeared," she said, touching my wrist. In the first life, that touch could disarm me. It said, "I know you. I choose you. Come back where I can reach you." I gently moved my hand to adjust my bag strap. I had a supervisor meeting. Without me. She laughed, but her eyes sharpened. We were going to prep together. "You can still prep, Nora." She made my name into a small scolding song. "Don't be weird. You know I'm drowning." There it was. Drowning. The word she used whenever she wanted my work to become a life jacket. I said, "Then meet your supervisor."
Min says.
"Then change tactics." "Can I at least see your outline?" "Just structure, not content." The exact request from the first life, softened by "at least," and just those two little thieves that make refusal sound excessive. My heart thudded so hard I could hear it. "No," I said. A bus hissed outside the cafe windows. Someone dropped a spoon behind the counter. Elodie blinked.
No.
"I'm not sharing thesis drafts this semester." The cream cardigan, the gold hoops, the worried mouth. All of it stayed in place, but the person underneath went very still. "Wow," she said. "Honors changed you fast." I thought of the inquiry room, the withdrawn scholarship, the way she cried harder than me while burying me. "Not fast enough," I said and walked away. A simple refusal would not be enough. Elodie's strength had never been taking one document. It was building atmosphere. She made people feel that what she possessed must have been offered, that if conflict existed, it came from someone else becoming jealous or unstable. So I treated my old topic like a dangerous artifact. I did not delete it. Deletion creates ghosts and weakens timelines. I copied the full old proposal into a new document marked deprecated, not my registered topic. Then I added invisible and visible proof, metadata, version notes, a nonsense citation to an article that did not exist but whose initials spelled my grandmother's name, a deliberately awkward phrase only I would recognize, and a footnote that read, in small gray text, Draft abandoned after supervisor meeting, August 4th, due to topic change. I saved it in a folder Elodie had previously accessed in the first life, but this time I restricted download permissions and turned on access notifications. Then I moved all real work into a separate encrypted folder with a title so boring no one would click it. Ward audio notes. I began recording interviews properly, logging observations, transcribing my own night shift reflections. The new thesis was harder than the old one. It had fewer flashy headlines, fewer easy citations, more uncertainty. It also had something Elodie could not steal by reading a draft: lived access. She had never worked a night shift. She thought patient deterioration happened when a monitor screamed. My thesis began in the quiet before the scream. By week 3, Elodie's sweetness had grown teeth. She told our seminar group I had become protective of my genius, which made everyone laugh because it sounded like affection if you did not hear the rust underneath. She started sitting beside other people, borrowing their notes, praising their ideas too loudly, making sure I saw how replaceable my place beside her could be. I let it happen. That was harder than I expected. Rebirth gives you knowledge, not immunity. Sometimes I still missed her. Not the thief, not the girl who framed me, but the version I thought existed. Elodie eating chips on my bedroom floor, Elodie memorizing my coffee order, Elodie texting home safe after late classes. Grief is strange when the person is still alive and smiling across a seminar table. It feels like mourning someone who keeps interrupting the funeral. One afternoon, she cornered me in the stairwell after research methods and said, "People are asking why you're acting like I plagiarized you before anything even happened." My breath caught because the sentence stepped too close to truth. "Did you?" I asked. Her face hardened, then softened instantly into injury. "That's disgusting." "Then why say plagiarized?" "Because that's the vibe you're giving." She folded her arms. "You know, paranoia can become self-fulfilling. If you treat people like enemies, don't act shocked when they stop protecting you." In the first life, I would have begged her not to stop. In this one, I said, "Protection that requires access to my drafts is not protection." She stared at me like I had spoken a language she hated but understood. The first access notification came at 1:12 a.m. on a Thursday. Elodie Hart requested access to deprecated, not my registered topic. I was awake at my kitchen table, transcribing an interview with a nurse named Marisol, who described hearing a patient's breathing go square before oxygen saturation dropped. My phone lit up beside my tea, and for a moment I could not move. There it was. Not suspicion. Not trauma. Action. In the first life, Elodie had copied quietly through friendship. In this one, friendship had been revoked, so she came to the locked door anyway. I did not deny the request immediately. I let it sit for 6 minutes, long enough to screenshot, long enough for a second request to arrive with a message attached. "Need to check something from when we brainstormed."
Urgent? Oui.
That single word was a crowbar. I forwarded the notification to Dr. Rao with a plain note, documenting access attempt to an abandoned draft topic. My registered topic remains the night shift nursing study. Dr. Rao replied the next morning. Noted. Do not grant access. Continue documenting. Noted. Such a small word, but it felt like a lock sliding into place. I denied the request. Elodie did not mention it in class. She did, however, arrive wearing sunglasses indoors, which meant she wanted people to ask if she had been crying. 3 did. I did not. The plagiarism panic began in stages before the famous morning outside room 402. First, Elodie started asking odd questions in seminar, fishing for information without exposing what she lacked. Hypothetically, she said one week, if 2 students have adjacent topics because they brainstorm together, how does the department judge originality? Dr. Mendel, our seminar coordinator, looked over his glasses. By registered topic history, supervisor records, drafts, and oral defense. Elodie smiled too quickly. Of course. I wrote oral defense in my notebook and underlined it once. The second stage came when the department announced that all thesis proposals would be presented from the official topic registry, not student-submitted slides, because of recent concerns about topic drift. That was Dr. Rao's doing. I knew it from the way she avoided looking at me when the announcement landed. Elodie turned toward me across the room. Her expression asked a question her mouth could not risk forming. The third stage came when she finally submitted her topic registration 5 days before the deadline. The title appeared on the provisional list: Algorithmic Inequity in Emergency Department Triad, Risk Tools and Hidden Bias in Urban Hospitals. My old title, with a new coat. My old structure, wearing her perfume. Everyone admired it immediately. Elodie, that sounds incredible, Jessa said. So timely. Elodie smiled modestly. It came from lots of conversations about what fairness means in clinical settings. She looked at me when she said conversations. I smiled back. That unsettled her more than anger would have. I could have reported her then. Dr. Rao would have listened. The access request, the old draft, the overlap, all of it was enough to raise questions. But enough to raise questions is not always enough to end a performance. Elodie had survived the first life because she understood timing. She submitted first, cried first, framed first. I needed the truth to arrive in a room where she had to explain not only where the idea came from, but how she knew it. Thesis proposals are not just titles, they are commitments. You must justify methods, sources, feasibility, ethics, and personal access. Elodie could steal my old argument, but she could not answer why her data plan referenced a triage audit dataset that only existed in my abandoned notes, or why one citation was fake, or why the footnote in the version she used said the topic was abandoned before her registry date. So I waited. Waiting is not passive when you are building a case. I met Dr. Rao twice weekly. I collected interview consent forms. I wrote memos on night shift sensory knowledge. I made my own work so specific that even if Elodie tried to pivot, she could not touch it without exposing absence. Meanwhile, she grew brighter and thinner, like a candle burning too fast. She posted photos of stacks of articles, but the top article in one photo was from my old bibliography. She captioned it, "When your thesis finally finds its soul." I saved the screenshot. Of course I did. The night before proposal class, Elodie came to my apartment. She had never done that in the second life. In the first, she came often, curled on my couch, drank my mother's tea, borrowed cardigans, touched everything. This time my sister opened the door and called, "Nora, the blonde one who smiles too hard is here." I nearly dropped my mug. Elodie stood in the hallway holding a paper bag from the bakery we used to love. For a second, memory and present overlapped so painfully, I almost let her in. Then I saw the lavender binder under her arm. My old thesis lived inside it. "Can we talk?" she asked. My sister looked at me with the ruthless judgment of someone who had heard every detail. I stepped into the hallway and closed the door behind me. Elodie held out the bag. Almond croissants. Peace offering. For what? For whatever this weird distance is. Her voice trembled. This time, I thought the fear might be real. "I miss you," she said. That was crueler than accusation. "Do you?" Her eyes shone. "You are my safest person here." In the first life, those words would have opened every door. In this one, I heard the translation. "You were where I stored things I did not want to carry." "What do you need, Elodie?" Her mouth parted. The honest answer almost came. I saw it fighting behind her teeth. Then she chose the lie she knew best.
Nothing.
"I just wanted my friend back before tomorrow." "Then come to class with your own work," I said.
The tears vanished.
Not fell. Vanished. She lowered the bakery bag slowly. "You are so cold now." "No," I said. "I'm room temperature. You're just used to setting me on fire." The morning of proposal class, I arrived early enough to watch the department screen cycle through the topic registry. Room 402 was not impressive. Old carpet, flickering projector, windows that refused to open, and chairs arranged in a horseshoe so nobody could hide completely. But that morning it felt like a courtroom pretending to be a classroom. Dr. Mendel stood at the front, arranging rubrics. Dr. Rao sat near the back as my supervisor observer, calm as a locked cabinet. Students gathered in clusters, clutching binders, laptops, coffee, fear. Elodie arrived at 8:17 wearing a navy dress and the lavender binder. She looked perfect, which was how I knew she had barely slept. Her hair was curled too carefully. Her lipstick was too red. Her smile was too ready. Then the registry screen changed, and my new title appeared under my name. Hearing the Invisible Ward. Night Shift Nurses. Patient Deterioration. The title I had registered 6 weeks ago, defended in meetings, built from interviews she had never heard. Elodie stopped walking. Her coffee lid popped. Caramel foam slid over her hand. Jessa said, "Oh my God, Elodie, your coffee." Elodie did not move. Her eyes darted from my title to the binder in her arms, then to me. "Nora," she whispered, "what did you do?" I let the question hang for one clean second. Then I said, "I changed my thesis topic." "When?" "6 weeks ago." "You didn't tell me." "It was my thesis." People around us pretended not to listen with the complete failure typical of honor students near scandal. Elodie lowered her voice. "We talked about triage bias for months." "I did," I said. "You listened." If panic had a smell, it would have smelled like caramel coffee and printer ink. Elodie wiped her hand on a tissue, leaving a sticky streak across the lavender binder. "Nora, if you change topics, why didn't you remove the old draft from the shared folder?" There it was. Before class even started, she admitted seeing a document she had no current reason to know. I tilted my head. "Which shared folder?" Her face went pale. "The one from last semester." "I didn't share thesis drafts this semester." "Don't do this." The words came out sharp, then softened as Jessa moved closer. "I mean, don't act like we didn't brainstorm. You know how this looks." "Yes," I said.
Ido.
Dr. Mendel called us into the room before she could recover. We took our seats. Elodie sat across from me, binder closed, one hand resting on top, as if holding down an animal trying to escape. The class format was simple. Each student's official registered topic appeared on screen. Then the student had 3 minutes to explain research question, method, key literature, and feasibility. After that, supervisors could ask questions.
No slides.
No hiding behind design. No borrowed voice without a body beneath it. My name was third. Elodie was fourth. That sequencing was not an accident. Dr. Rao had learned timing too. When my title appeared, I stood with nothing but 1 page of notes. My hands trembled at first, but then I thought of Marisol saying the breathing went square, of another nurse describing a patient who became too polite before sepsis signs appeared, of monitors glowing green while bodies whispered trouble. This was not the flashy thesis Elodie wanted to wear. It was mine because it had grown in rooms where I had stood quietly with patients and nurses and the strange intelligence of practice. I explained my research question: how experienced night shift nurses recognize early deterioration through sensory and relational cues before electronic alerts. I described qualitative interviews, ethics considerations, limitations, and why the study mattered for training without romanticizing intuition. Dr. Rao asked how I would avoid implying monitors were less important than human judgment. By framing the study as complementarity, I answered. Technology catches measurable change. Nurses often notice pattern changes before thresholds are crossed. The question is how to describe that knowledge responsibly. Dr. Mendel nodded. Jessa wrote something down. Elodie stared at me like I had betrayed her by becoming real in a way she could not copy. When I sat, my pulse was wild, but the ground under me felt solid. Then Dr. Mendel said, "Elodie Hart," and the projector changed to her registered title. My old ghost appeared on screen. She stood too quickly, chair scraping. The lavender binder opened in her hands, and for one terrible second I saw my old structure. Background, problem statement, literature gap, methods. She began well. Of course she did. Emergency departments increasingly rely on algorithmic triage tools that claim objectivity, but may reproduce existing socioeconomic inequalities. My sentence, polished by her voice. A few students nodded. Her shoulders relaxed. Performance was muscle memory. Then Dr. Mendel asked, "What is your proposed data source?" She looked at the binder. A retrospective audit of triage risk scores across urban hospitals. Which hospitals have you contacted? I'm in the process of identifying sites. Have you discussed feasibility with your supervisor?
Yes, she said.
Dr. Mendel looked at the supervisor list. Your supervisor is Dr. Keene. He submitted a note yesterday that he has not yet seen a feasible data plan from you. The room tightened. Elodie swallowed. We had informal conversations.
Dr. Rao spoke for the first time, voice calm.
Your bibliography includes the Harrogate pilot dataset. How did you gain access to that? Elodie blinked. The Harrogate dataset was from my old abandoned notes. It was not public. It was not real access. It was a hypothetical lead from a placement nurse who later said it could not be used. In the deprecated draft, I had marked it unconfirmed, do not rely. Elodie said, it's in the literature. Dr. Rao's eyebrows rose. It is not. Silence fell hard enough to bruise. Elodie tried to pivot. Sorry, I mean it was discussed in early brainstorming with Nora. Every head turned. There it was. The emergency exit labeled shared. I had known she would reach for it.
Dr. Mendel looked at me.
Nora? My throat tightened anyway. Being prepared does not make accusation painless. I opened my folder and removed one page. My official topic change confirmation dated August 4th, plus the email to Dr. Rao documenting the abandoned triage topic. I abandoned that topic 6 weeks ago before Elodie registered hers. I did not collaborate on her proposal. Elodie gave a small, wounded laugh. That's not fair. We talked constantly before you changed. Talking about a field is not the same as giving you a proposal. Dr. Rao added, for transparency, Nora documented a deprecated draft and access attempts after changing topics. Elodie's hand tightened on the binder. Dr. Mendel asked her, is any part of your current written proposal based on Nora's abandoned draft? No, she said immediately. Too immediately. Dr. Rao opened her laptop. Then can you explain this citation? She read the fake article title I had planted, the one whose author initials spelled my grandmother's name. I cannot locate it in any database. Elodie looked down at the page. Her lips parted. No sound came out. The class was so quiet I could hear the projector fan. Dr. Mendel did not raise his voice. Elodie, did you verify your sources? She whispered. I was going to. That sentence did not confess plagiarism, but it confessed enough. She had submitted a thesis proposal she could not defend because the brain underneath it was not hers. The collapse before grading was not cinematic. No one gasped. No one clapped. Elodie did not run from the room. Real academic humiliation is quieter. It is the sound of a supervisor closing a rubric without writing a score. It is a coordinator saying, we will pause assessment of this proposal pending originality review. It is classmates looking at the table because watching someone lose a mask feels intimate and rude. Elodie sat down slowly, binder still open to my stolen outline. Her face had gone pale under the makeup. For a moment, I remembered the friend I thought she was and felt grief crack through my anger. Then she looked at me with hatred so bright it burned the grief away. You set me up, she said. Not loudly, but the room heard. I answered just as quietly. You copied an abandoned draft because you left it where I could find it. That is not how ownership works. Dr. Mendel interrupted before the conversation became theater. Enough. Elodie, remain after class. Nora, please send your documentation to the committee file. Committee file. In my first life, those words had meant danger. In this one, they meant the net was under me, not around my throat. After class, Elodie waited outside room 402 while I spoke briefly with Dr. Rao. I almost hoped she would leave. She did not. She stood beside the stairwell with the lavender binder hugged to her chest, coffee stain dried into a brown crescent across the cover. When I came out, she stepped in front of me. Students slowed, then pretended to keep walking.
You ruined me, she said.
The old line, different thief.
No.
I stopped letting you rehearse as me. Her eyes filled, but tears had lost their old authority. I needed help. You needed a topic. You were always better at this than me. That was the first honest sentence she had given me in 2 lives. It landed strangely, not as apology, but as a child holding up a broken toy. Then you should have asked for help building your own. She laughed, ugly and small. Easy for you. Ideas just happen in your head. No, I said, sharper than I intended. Ideas happen after reading, working, failing, meeting supervisors, changing direction, and sitting with things that don't sound impressive yet. You didn't want ideas. You wanted a rival. She flinched. You loved being needed. That one hit because it was true in the first life. I had loved being necessary. It made me feel safe until necessity became a cage. Yes, I said. And you loved needing me more than knowing me. Her mouth trembled. For 1 second, the hallway fell away, and we were just two girls who had built something toxic and called it friendship because one of us was giving and one was taking with gratitude. Then, her face hardened. I'll tell them you gave me permission. I looked at the binder, then back at her. This time, I gave myself proof. She stepped aside. The review moved quickly because the proposal had not yet been graded. That saved me more than I can explain. In the first life, Elodie's stolen work had already received praise before suspicion appeared, and institutions hate reversing applause. This time, the committee caught the problem while it was still a proposal before grades, scholarships, or public showcases made adults defensive. Dr. Rao submitted my topic change record, access notifications, deprecated draft metadata, and the planted fake citation. Dr. Mendel submitted the seminar transcript and his notes on Elodie's inability to defend data access. Dr. Keene, Elodie's supervisor, admitted he had repeatedly asked her to narrow her topic and had never approved the submitted version. Elodie claimed we had collaborated in early brainstorming, which was partially true and therefore dangerous. But partial truth could not explain the footnote marking the draft abandoned, the fake citation copied from my file, the identical method sequence, or her access request after I refused to share. She was not expelled. This matters. Stories like this often demand total destruction, but universities prefer managed consequences. Her proposal was rejected for originality concerns. She received a formal academic warning. She was required to restart with a new topic under close supervision, and she lost eligibility for the honors travel grant that year. My proposal was cleared without penalty.
Cleared.
Such a clean word for something that had once drowned me. The social fallout was messier than the official one. Some students avoided Elodie like plagiarism was contagious. Others avoided me because proof makes people uncomfortable when they benefited from not knowing. Jessa apologized for praising Elodie's topic so loudly. Dr. Mendel redesigned the proposal process so topic changes, draft histories, and supervisor approvals were locked earlier. Dr. Rao asked if I wanted to continue honors after everything. The question surprised me. In the first life, honors was ripped from me, so wanting it had become tangled with revenge. Now that it was mine again, I had to choose it without the fuel of being wronged. I said yes, but not immediately. I took 1 weekend away from the thesis, visited my mother, ate too much rice, and slept 14 hours in my childhood room under glow in the dark stars that had stopped glowing years ago. On Sunday night, I opened my new interview transcripts and read Marisol's line again. You hear the word differently after midnight. Machines beep, but people change rhythm. I understood that more than she meant. After betrayal, the world changes rhythm too. You learn which silences are peaceful and which are waiting to bite. My new thesis was not just safer than the old one. It was truer to the person I had become, attentive, cautious, unwilling to confuse noise with knowledge. Elodie came to my apartment one final time near the end of semester, not with croissants, not with tears prepared, but with a thin folder and no makeup. My sister opened the door, looked her up and down, and said, "Bold." Elodie said, "Fair." That alone was new enough that I stepped into the hallway. She held the folder out. "I'm changing my topic." I did not take it. "Why show me?" "I'm not asking for approval." She looked down. "I'm asking you not to panic if you hear about it." The old Elodie would have made even that sound generous. This one sounded exhausted. It's about first-generation students and academic help-seeking. Qualitative. Small scale. Dr. Keene approved it. I almost laughed at the irony, but her face stopped me. That could be good, I said. If it's honest. She nodded. I don't know if I know how to be honest without sounding less impressive. There it was, the wound under the theft. Not an excuse. A wound. Then sound less impressive, I said. It's survivable. Her eyes shone, but no tears fell. Did you ever actually like me? The question hurt because the answer was yes, and yes did not save either of us. I liked who I thought you were. She nodded like she deserved that. I'm sorry, she said. 2 words, small, late, unsupported by music. For copying or for getting caught? She closed her eyes briefly. Both. But mostly for making you prove what should have been yours. That was the first apology that touched the correct bruise. I accepted it with silence, which was all I had. When she left, I did not feel healed. I felt unhooked. My thesis earned a high distinction 8 months later. Not the top prize, not the dramatic academic crown Elodie had once chased with my voice in her mouth. A high distinction, a supervisor's note praising methodological sensitivity, and an invitation to present at a small nursing education symposium where 27 people attended and 14 were there for the free sandwiches. It was perfect. I stood at the front of a modest seminar room and spoke about night shift nurses, tacit knowledge, patient safety, and the danger of dismissing what cannot be easily quantified. During questions, someone asked whether my research had been difficult to defend because it sounded soft compared with algorithmic studies. I smiled. Once, that would have embarrassed me. Yes, I said. But difficulty is not a reason to abandon a topic. Sometimes it's evidence that the topic needs better language. Afterward, Dr. Rao told me, this was the thesis you were supposed to write. I thought about time, death, theft, and the abandoned draft sitting in an archive like a shed skin. Maybe she was right. Or maybe supposed to is just what we call the path we manage to protect. I never became careless with my work again. I shared resources but not raw drafts. I helped classmates build their own arguments, but I did not donate mine for emotional stability. I learned to say, I can talk through structure, but I won't send my text. Some people accepted that easily. Others acted wounded, which told me everything. Elodie and I did not become friends again. We became a nod across campus, an occasional polite email, a story with no reunion scene. That was enough. Some endings are healthier when they do not try to recover the beginning. Years later, when I supervised students myself, I told them topic changes were not failures. They were sometimes acts of intellectual honesty. I told them to register early, meet supervisors before they felt ready, preserve drafts, and never mistake someone's panic for permission to surrender their own work. Students laughed at my obsession with version history until plagiarism season arrived. Then they listened. I did not tell them I had once died under a stolen idea and returned in time to change topics. I simply said, your thesis should be able to survive being read by someone who wants to take it. So yes, I changed my thesis topic. Not because I was scared of competition, not because the old idea became weak, and not because I wanted to trap my best friend for sport. I changed it because in my first life, Elodie stole my strongest argument and used our friendship as proof that I had given it away. In my second, I refused to keep building a house after I watched someone copy the keys. I moved. I registered the move. I left the old house empty, labeled, documented, and rigged not with lies but with truth she did not bother to read. Her plagiarism panic began before class because the stolen title in her binder no longer matched the woman standing in front of her. She had prepared to impersonate my brilliance, but I had gone somewhere deeper, quieter, and impossible to fake. When the projector showed my new thesis, she finally understood that she had not stolen my future. She had stolen my leftovers. And when grading paused before her borrowed words could become official, I learned the cleanest revenge is not proving someone copied you after they win. It is changing direction early enough that when they arrive wearing your old voice, everyone can hear the echo.